my friends. We are here with someone that he doesn't know this, but I'm a fanboy. Got me through COVID in a lot of ways, my friend, with Shots of Awe. He also previously hosted Brain Games, which my kids, I have 5, love. Absolutely love. So thank you so much, Jason, for taking your time with me today in DC. What are your thoughts?
No, it's nice to be here, man. Normally DC is something that happens on TV. Then when you're actually here, you're staying in a hotel and you're like, yeah, the White House is over there and the vice president's house is over there. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So
You got to be careful.
real infrastructure of power surrounding.
I was just going to say, you got to be careful. The venom seeps into your veins when you're here long enough. But, as I was explaining before off camera, my organization is all about understanding, what smart is, what intelligence is in the future. 20 years from now, how do we actually prepare learners? And so, obviously being a fan, let's talk a little bit about wonder.
Yeah.
Where do you see wonder's role in the future learner profile?
I mean, ideally, man, wonder is the end all be all. It's for me, there is really no learning except for wonder and fear.
Interesting.
And I hate learning through fear. So even though it's effective, it's unpleasant. You can traumatize somebody and scare them in order to get them to learn something and follow rules. But learning through wonder actually is very enriching.
Mm.
The questions that arrive intuitively when the world presents itself to us and all of its mystery.
The constructivist standpoint, right? The Loris Malaguzzi created the Reggio Emilia philosophy, and he was all about a child, really a human, right? Defining their own understanding of a concept through failure.
Yeah.
Rather than what we do in our current learning model, which is here's the information, memorize it, now spit it back to me, and let's move on. How do you keep wonder in your life?
I think it's wonder and awe are neurochemically expensive. They require
Love that.
dopamine and
Yes.
anandamide and all of these things. So protecting wonder is an investment, just the same way you invest in your health. I invest in rest and recovery cycles so that I can have the energetic affordance to hold the biochemically taxing states.
So you wouldn't say it's an active state of mind. You would say it's a purposeful state of mind?
I would say that if I'm running on fumes or if I'm tired or if I'm under rested, there is no wonder and awe. There is just getting through the day.
Interesting. Yes.
I feel like it's our innate state once we're rested and fed. And I think, unfortunately, we live sometimes in a world that's so survivalist oriented, even if with the abundance that we have in our modern era, we're still sort of encouraged to be in this survivalist mindset, to be oriented only around like make your money or like 60 important,
especially here.
Metric. Yes.
Yeah.
And awe and wonder is joyfully unproductive. And ironically can then lead to like immense passion and productivity.
Absolutely.
It's born not from the place of like grasping towards achievement, but from marveling at the mystery.
And that takes time and patience and space.
Now, one of the reasons I moved to Amsterdam was because I fell in love with their bicycling infrastructure. The Netherlands alongside Denmark are the most bike-friendly places in the world. And I think it's no coincidence that the Netherlands also has the happiest children in the world. And I think it's because they make even sort of day-to-day mundane routines have a flow component to them, because you're moving through the world with omnidirectional freedom and open air, atomized in a car and stop and go traffic.
It's interesting. A lot of the work we do is we have whole fellowships around outdoor learning.
Yeah.
And one stat that really sticks with me is the moment you step outside, 28% drop in cortisol. So you look at all these kids that are now on medication to serve a system that doesn't work, right? When the solution, the biggest solution, I mean, that's a huge number, is just get outside.
I would love to have classrooms in the open air on beanbags, beautiful nature. That would be my dream classroom.
And just, waxing poetic and
The ergonomics of bliss.
yes.
Then I think about the spaces that we design a lot. There was this great article called "The Psychological Impact of Boring Buildings." It was talking about how like bad design actually like makes you depressed.
Yeah.
You can like measure that.
And look at our
But
schools.
then look what beauty can do.
Mm.
So it's like when we design our schools, like, why don't we bring like architects that are focused on like the architecture of flourishing and like bringing beauty as part of like we're trying to like create environments where kids can thrive. I think that aesthetics play a gigantic role. Things look pretty, but because beauty actually nourishes the psyche.
It's interesting because when you go to a museum, there's this natural phenomenon of everybody quiet.
Yeah, totally.
And when you hit those moments, what I find where you're in a sense of awe and you look around, it tends to be that kind of calm and quiet.
We spend as much money on schools as we do on museums. I mean, when you think about it, museums are some of the richest expressions, abundance, and a love of learning. You have spectacular buildings holding fascinating artifacts hung on walls, well lit, with a church-like reverence and silence. People move through the world where even ordinary objects hanging on a museum wall become subjects of contemplation or objects of contemplation. What if we could bring that kind of museum consciousness out into the world? What if we could move through the world where everything you come across is worthy of contemplation? I'm a big fan of the term the flaneur. Flaneur means the walking philosopher. And it came out of like, I think the 1920s in Europe, where these men and women of letters would stroll through the cityscape, not to get somewhere, not hurried, but in contemplation. I think in a way it's easier to do that in European cities because of the historicity. You have these cities and buildings that have been around for hundreds of years. So you're basically in an open air museum. Amsterdam is basically an open air museum.
Very beautiful.
Cycle through. I have seen that have a direct effect on my psychology.
I was just going to say, do you allow yourself to process after these moments of, I mean, if you can embrace, that's a lot of input.
Yeah.
Which means naturally there should be an output to kind of
all my work.
yes.
I think that like I treat phenomenology, which is like my subjectivity or like how the I self unfolds in time as like soil. I try to feed my body mind as it moves in time. I try to expose myself very deliberately to motion, to beauty, to things that trigger contemplation and reverence and whimsy. And I deliberately avoid things that trigger anxiety and rumination.
As most should. I mean, that's a life lesson everybody can take.
A mindful take on like what's coming in through your senses during your waking hours.
Mm.
It actually comes out of psychedelic heuristic.
Yeah.
In the 1960s, they realized that psychedelic substances could be transformative if the set and setting were nourishing. And that's sort of obvious now, but what people don't realize is that a psychedelic state is just a highly intensified version of regular baseline consciousness.
Yes.
And regular baseline consciousness is also affected by a set and setting in which we dwell and in which we unfold. So I'm talking about this idea of like 4-dimensional engineering. And I was like, how do you design not just objects and spaces in 3D, but in 4D? Because we're verbs as much as nouns. We move through not just space, but we move in time. And so what are the things that are acting upon us as we move in time?
I would say DMT, ayahuasca, which is interesting. That I don't know if you've seen the laser and so, through DMT and it's repeatable and all of that craziness. Well, I again want to keep you very brief here, but I do, after, discussing that, we have a question we ask every guest that's on our podcast. And Dr. Damian Bevel out of Boston College said, smart is contextual and evolving. I'm going to ask you, Jason, what is smart?
What is smart?
So
I would say that somebody whose response to what they experience shows weightedness and depth, and what I mean by that is like, I mean, you could say there's also sensitive, but I often think that sensitivity and smartness come together. Somebody who, walks through Amsterdam, their intelligence and or their depth would be revealed to me by what they notice, what they report back, by how much they saw. I think a lot of people are asleep, which I think is not the same as being smart.
That's
Sense that they move through the world paying very little attention to things,
I think that
noticing very little.
yeah, it drives it from uncomfortability,
What you notice, I think, is a measure of your character.
awareness, and
What
I
is salient to you?
yes. Yes. I think of Joseph Campbell and like the hero's journey and thinking how he defined it of like transitioning from the comfortable
Sure.
to the uncomfortable and back.
Sure.
So would you say that smart is more about, embracing the unknown than it is about answering the right questions?
I think that exposure to novelty is extremely important.
Yes.
I think that like deliberately going into unfamiliar places so that you can get outside your maps and your assumptions puts you in a virginal perceptual terrain, which I think then lends itself to more rich experience, more rich data.
Yes.
Versus moving through the world in familiar patterns where you're not really learning anything new.
Excellent. Jason, thank you so, so much, my friend. It was so nice talking with you. Again, love his stuff. Check Jason's stuff out. Where can they find you, Jason?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Jason L. Silva. And check out my new book, Sacred Derangement. It's available on Amazon.
I'm only like 10 pages into it, but absolutely love it. Thanks again, man.
Thanks so much,
Appreciate it.
man. Thank you.
Take care.